Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Traditionally, aluminum cranks have provided us with best bang for the buck, and both Shimano and SRAM provide us today with a large range of options. But if you were to pick from the top of the line aluminum, I guess you would pick the GX for SRAM and you would pick the SLX XT for Shimano, excluding XTR, which is in a different league. How would you pick between these two? Which one is better? GX from SRAM, SLX XT from Shimano. Let's take a closer look. And I said SLX and XT because if you guys remember from this video, there's not much difference between SLX and XT from Shimano. Actually, the SLX can be a couple of grams lighter. And why don't we start with weight to get that big elephant out of the room? And what we have here is a Shimano SLX, 170mm cranks, 32 tooth chainring, and the equivalent SRAM GX. Straight out of the box, we're looking at 624 grams for the Shimano SLX, and the SRAM GX, the new lunar gray, comes up to 629 grams. So we're talking 5 grams difference between these two cranksets. However, where it becomes interesting is if we're just going to measure the cranks without the chainrings. That would be relevant if you were to use them with third-party chainrings like these absolute black ovals. Shimano cranks by themselves will come up to 495 grams, and Eagle GX cranks come up to 545 grams. So 50 grams difference between SRAM GX aluminum and SLX aluminum cranks. The difference must come from the Holotech 2 technology, which pretty much means hollow aluminum cranks. Add the weight of one of these third-party chainrings, which is 55 grams, and you end up with 550 grams for the Shimano and about 600 for SRAM. SRAM can only get to those weights by using carbon, so the winner of this first category is Shimano. And starting with Shimano, you can see here 2 of the 3 chainrings available for this product line. I'm looking at the SLX XT chainring, the XTR, and they have another direct mount chainring for the OR. And I said direct mount because all these chainrings are direct mount, whether they come from SRAM and Shimano, Shimano being the late adopter of this technology. If you're looking at their chainrings, not only that they are 120 grams weight-wise, but these are built quite interestingly. You have that aluminum spider that has a steel ring bolted onto it. Now, putting aside the eventual issues from using all these bolts that some of you might be aware of, this chainring should last quite a bit. Again, the outer ring here is made out of steel. They only use aluminum for the XTR line, and this is not necessarily an XTR, it's an XTR lookalike. These should be lighter, and they are. You see this one at 67 grams, and I mentioned the Dior chainring, which looks quite different than this, and it adds about 10 grams. SRAM Eagle will give you this cold forged aluminum chainring that comes up to 80 grams. They do have the fancier version of this, the CNC machined version of this, that usually comes with something like XX1. That one is 68 grams, so 12 grams improvement in weight. Both of these are made out of aluminum. SRAM also gives us an oval, believe it or not. This is actually very good and very similar to something like Absolute Black. This is 73 grams, but this is a 34 tooth. Finally, SRAM is going to give us this, an all steel chainring that it's available or provided with a lot of their more budget oriented cranks. This is fully compatible with Eagle 12 speed. It uses an X-Sync 2 tooth profile, and the weight of this is 143 grams, so about 25 grams heavier than this, but this is made out of steel through and through. You could argue that this heavier SRAM chainring is the only one equivalent to what SLX and XT offer in terms of longevity. However, in my experience, the aluminum chainrings made by Shimano, SRAM, or others are not that bad in terms of longevity. So plenty of options from both companies, similar weights, whether you're going for full aluminum or steel ring. However, SRAM offers you ovals, so if you are into that kind of stuff, you would consider that an advantage for SRAM. But how are the two companies dealing with installation of these new direct mount chain rings? And in case of SRAM, they use the good old 3-bolt mounted system, in which case right here on the drive side you're gonna have 1, 2, 3 bolts, and you would use a simple T25 Torx like many other SRAM components to tighten this up to anywhere between 8 and 9 Newton meters. Shimano has reused their center lock idea that they've used with their rotors for the longest time, in which you're going to just install the chainring, and then you're going to use this lock ring that you can see is specific to SLX and XT to tighten it up to anywhere between 35 and 50 Newton meters. Now, the idea of a center lock is common, but what's not common is the need to use this new tool, TLFC41, and you would slide this over the spindle and tighten it up. That tightening torque is not that easy to measure, so overall I would give this category to SRAM for the simplicity and also more options available. I covered the chain line and spacing of the current Shimano cranks in this video, and even though it's not that well documented, SRAM is kind of using the same principle, and that is longer overall spindle for 55 millimeter. SRAM calls it MTB wide, or Super Boost Plus, that's 56.5 millimeters chain line. However, if SRAM is providing us on pretty much any crankset with the option of this 49 millimeter chain line next to the others that I just mentioned, Shimano, let's take this Dior for 142 or 148 millimeter rear spacing, you're gonna see that the only chain line they support is 52 millimeters, and that would definitely be more extreme than necessary, especially for 135 and 142 millimeter rear spacing bikes. That's because Shimano provides just one offset for their chain rings regardless of the chain line, as opposed to SRAM approach, in which case they have this 6 millimeter offset chain ring for non-boost frames, and they provide us with the 3 millimeter offset for boost and super boost frames. For providing this flexibility, I give this chainline category to SRAM because they provide us options for the older bikes. And last category is a bit of a biggie for me, bottom bracket compatibility. These days we're very used to using the SRAM dub bottom brackets that were introduced in 2018 to replace the 24 and 30 millimeter spindle standards. These bottom brackets are able to accommodate pretty much any frame bottom bracket shell, and in case you didn't know, DUB stands for Durable Unified Bottom Bracket. And while I agree with the unified part of that definition, when it comes to the durable, the 28.99 spindle diameter made out of aluminum allowed SRAM to reduce the weight of their cranksets. However, it also forced them to use very tiny bearings in these bottom brackets. They do work okay most of the time. However, we had the chance to ride our bikes this summer in not so ideal conditions, and at the end of it, this is how my dub bottom brackets look like. Needless to say, they were absolutely destroyed. In contrast, the GXP bottom bracket, the old standard, the 24 millimeter spindle made out of steel, survived the same race, no problems whatsoever. Surprise, surprise, that's exactly what Shimano is using, not the GXP, but the 24 millimeter diameter spindle made out of steel. And that also means that the Shimano bottom brackets can accommodate beefier bearings. They seem to be better sealed. For me, the Shimano bottom brackets seem to last forever. And if you take a look at the box here, you're gonna see that they come in all kind of shapes and forms, trying to accommodate frame bottom bracket shells available in the market today. So So for bottom brackets, if I am to choose, I would always go for Shimano bottom brackets. If I am to choose a crankset that's long lasting and is not that expensive, something like SLX would be my choice, probably 8 times out of 10. Alternatively to something like a GX, you can go either for the Descendant, which is a cheaper version of the same crank, or Stylo that I reviewed not too long ago on my channel. Again, 2 cheaper variants of something like SRAM Eagle GX, which is usually more expensive than the Shimano SLX equivalent. However, if you're after the lowest weight and carbon cranks, SRAM is your only option. Shimano doesn't make any carbon cranks, and even their XTR is right around 540 grams, whereas the SRAM XX1 SL is at 425 grams. So there you have it, folks. Shimano aluminum cranks versus SRAM aluminum cranks. Which one do you use? Do you like one versus the other? Do you go for carbon instead? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.